Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to your first Canvas module. So how this works, it's pretty much laid out in the module itself, but I wanted to kind of make sure that you understood. So you have a packet that you were given by your teacher or an adult in the room. All right, that's going to be your math packet. Then you are going to work through that math packet while I basically work through it on this module. We will not do this whole packet today. We are going to break it up. So I will make sure to keep you posted up here in this black box with the white lettering. Sometimes it's going to be over here, but it'll always be big like this, is going to be the page number. So in your packet, find page 27. All right, so on page 27, close to the top, it should have these learning targets. And you found these learning targets when you did your scavenger hunt the other day. So I want you to take a moment, pause the video, and I want you to circle what I have circled and underline what I have circled. Underlined. Welcome back. All right, if you have not already done it, I also want you to star the math terms. They should be on the right side, and it's just kind of what is the focus for what we're doing right now. We already talked about prime numbers. We already talked about composite numbers. You've talked about factors, and then a prime factor is just putting together a prime number that's a factor of a number, okay? Don't worry about if that seems a little bit confusing. We will get there, I promise. So, here's how this works. Do you remember doing your factor trees, right? We're kind of doing that.
Hey, Sam, can you go to the main office real quick? Sam, can you go to the main office real quick?
Don't mind announcements. All right, so here's how this works. 12, which two numbers can you multiply together to get 12? You could say 2 and 6. You could say 3 and 4. So for this case, we're going to use 3 and 4. All right? So 3 is prime, so I have it circled here. All right? What two numbers multiply together to get 4? 2 and 2. So 3 times 2 times 2. This right here is the prime factorization of 12. All right, so let's do another example. So still on the same page, and if you do not have room to do these problems at the bottom, then feel free to use that green space on the right. So looking at 21, what two numbers multiply together to get 21? 3 and 7. Is 3 prime? Yes, so we're going to circle it. Is 7 prime? Yes, so we are going to circle it. Okay? So 3 times 7 is the prime factorization of 21. All right, so let's do 16. What two numbers multiply together to get 16? You could say 2 and 8. You could also say 4 and 4. So we're going to use 4 and 4. If you use 2 and 8, it would work out the same. So 4 and 4, neither of those are prime. So what two numbers multiply to give you 4? 2 and 2. Is 2 a prime number? We did that prime and composite sheet the other day. It is a prime number. And we're going to do the same thing for this 4. So our answer then would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So this right here is the prime factorization of 16. So looking at 18, what is the prime factorization of 18? Well, what two numbers multiply together to get you 18? You could say 3 and 6. You could say 2 and 9. So let's use 2 and 9. So I'm going to circle 2. And 9 is not prime. What two numbers multiply together to give you 9? 3 and 3. Awesome. Okay? So 2 times 3 times 3. This is the prime factorization of 18. All right? So looking at page 28, I want you to pause this video And in the middle of the page, it says, try these B. Okay? I want you to try these 3 problems, and then when you're ready, we're going to come back together and we're going to talk about them. Welcome back. All right, so 32. You could use 16 and 2. You could use 8 and 4. You could use a whole bunch of different options. I use 16 and 2. But regardless, if you broke it down and you went to all prime numbers, you should have had 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So that's 5 2's multiplied together. All right? For 45, you could have used 9 and 5. You could also use 15 and 3. All right? So 9 and 5. 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. So that would be 3 times 3 times 5. All right? What about 56? What did you use? I used 8 and 7. 8 broke down into 4 and 2, and obviously we've broken down a lot of 4s, so 4 obviously breaks down into 2 and 2. So that is, sorry, this is not what I wanted to do. 2 times 2 times 2, and then times 7. So this is the answer that you should have, okay? And again, if you need to use your assignment notebook, your agenda, and look at page 126 for your multiplication table, do that. If you need to use your prime factorization sheet to make sure that you're looking at primes, do that. That's why we have these resources. All right, so looking at page 30. Looking at page 30. So we're going to continue with what we just did and build on it a little bit more. All right? So I want you at the top of the page has those learning targets again that we just talked about. I want you to pause this video. I want you to underline and circle the words that I have underlined and circled. I also want you to star the 2 math terms. Welcome back. All right, so numeric expression and evaluate. So expression is different than equation. Equation has an equal sign, whereas an expression does not. Okay? So the other thing I want you to do is this middle part right here where it has the exponent and the base. This is super duper important. So I don't know if you want to star it. I don't know if you want to take a big circle around it. I put a little box, whatever you want to do. So the base is basically the big number and the exponent is that little number up top. Okay? So what this looks like is if you have 2 and you as the base and you have 6x the exponent, you read that as 2 to the 6th power. So that means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times another 2. All right? And if you do all that math, you get 64. Same thing here. 4 and 7/10 is the base. 2 is the exponent. So 4 and 7/10 to the 2nd power, or as we like to say in the math world, that would be called squared. So that means the base times itself 2 times. And when you do that, this is the answer that you get. All right? This is 5 as the base, 3 as the exponent. So 5 to the 3rd power, or as the math world, we call that cubed. So that means you multiply 5 1, 2, 3 times. All right? And when you do that math, you get 125. So looking at the same page, standard form is when you have just your number. Exponential form is when you have a base and an exponent, okay? So if they want us to write 3 to the 4th in expanded notation, that means that I'm going to do 3 times 3. How many times am I going to write that 3? 4 times. Awesome. Oh my gosh, look at me. Talking and writing. Can't do it. All right, so I have 3 written 4 times. And then I'm going to do a little cheat here and use my calculator because that's going to be a big number. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 again is going to be 81. So these are the 2 answers that they want from us. All right? This would be 4 times how many other 4s? How many 4s should we have written at the end? 5. Awesome. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. So what is 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4? Did I get enough? 1,024. All right? Now, 8 squared. Remember, squared was the weird one. So 8 is going to be the base. Squared is what number up top? A 2. Awesome. So that is 8 squared. So that means 8 times 8, which is 64. Awesome. All right. So this is 1 7/10 times 1 7/10 times 1 7/10. So that number is going to be my base. That's going to be the big number. And then how many are there? There are 3. So it's going to be to the 3rd power or cubed. So I'm going to do 1 7/10 times 1 7/10 times 1 7/10. And I'm going to get 4 913 thousandths. All right? Okay, so now there's obviously, because it's math, some funky ones. So thinking about what we just did, if this is 1 to the 17th power, I'm going to multiply 1 times 1 times 1. How many times? 17 times. No matter how many times I multiply 1, what is my answer going to be? 1. So no matter what, my answer is always going to be 1. What about here? I'm going to multiply 0 times 0 times 0 31 times. No matter how many times I multiply 0, what is my answer going to be? 0. So that is going to always be my answer. All right. Now this is a little bit different. This is 89 written one time. So that's just my answer. Any number written to the first power means that that's the number, because if I'm writing it one time, then it is the number. So look at this. 2 to the 4th is 16. 2 to the 3rd is 8. 2 squared is 4. 2 to the 1st is 2. So what if I had 2 written 0 times? What would I get? I'm actually going to get 1. Think about it this way. 16, I'm basically dividing by 2 and I get 8. Basically dividing by 2 and I get 4. I'm basically dividing by 2 and I get 2. I'm basically dividing by 2 and I get 1. Don't worry about that. I know it's a little bit funky. You will go over that again. All right? Now, we're going to do the same thing with our prime factorization. The only difference this time is we're going to write it with exponents. Okay? So 72, what times what gives you 72? We are going to use 8 and 9, all right? So 8, we've worked with 8 a lot earlier in this video. So we know that 2 times 4 equals 8, and 3 times 3 equals 9. I know these are prime. I know this is prime. What does 4 break down into, though? 2 and 2, good. Now, here's where the exponents come in and help. How many 2's do I have written? So I'm going to write 2 to the 3rd power times, how many 3's do I have written? 2, okay? So again, you can write out 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, but this is just a little bit cleaner version of doing that, all right? What about 800? I know that's a ginormous number, but let's just do 8 and 100. We've already worked so much with 8, I'm literally just going to bring it down and be like, y'all got this. We know that this is 2 and 4. We know that 4 breaks down in 2 and 2. What do you want to use for 100? We could use 20 and 5. We could use 10 and 10. We could use 25 and 4. I'm going to go with my handy dandy 25 and 4 because that reminds me of quarters and I'm good with quarters. So 4, again, we rock at 4s. Breaks down 2 and 2. What multiplies to give you 25? 5 and 5. So I'm going to circle 5. I'm going to circle 5. How many 2's do I have circled? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's times how many 5's do I have circled? 2. So this is my answer. All right, I want you to pause it and I want you to try and do this one on your own. Welcome back. So I always do 12 and 12. I did it 3 and 4 as well as 2 and 6 just in case. 3 and 2 are prime. I broke down my 4 and I broke down my 6. So I ended up with 2 to the 4th power because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 2's and 2 3's. All right? So that brings us to the end. So now you're going to go on to watch the next videos, do the quiz, work on the Excels, and get even better at these skills.